On September 11th, 2001, everything changed. To understand how, I spoke with my mom about what she experienced that day and how it changed the country forever. What is your name and what was your age on 9/11?
Okay, my name's Ariana Mueller, and I was 22 years old.
What is your relationship to me?
I'm Sebastian's mom.
Where were you and what do you remember about the events of 9/11?
I was driving to work, and I heard on the radio that a plane crashed into the World Trade Center.
What were your initial reactions or feelings when you realized what was happening?
Initially, they didn't make it seem like a big deal, but as the radio talk went on, you could tell it was becoming more serious.
Were you surprised that something like this could happen to the U.S.?
Yes, I think it was extremely shocking. I think it was a huge shock and to everyone that something, especially such a monumental building, could have such a devastating impact.
Who did you think of first or talk to about it that day?
Well, I arrived at work and all my coworkers gathered around a small TV to watch the news unfold.
How did 9/11 change your feelings about safety in the U.S. or national security?
I think it really changed how we perceived our safety because we realized that we were super vulnerable and a attack can happen to any one of us.
Or how did your perspective change on political leaders or how the government handled it?
I felt the government did a great job in handling it. I think Mayor Giuliani, I think everyone felt really positive about how he stepped up to the plate and really took a positive role in helping New York City. And honestly, politically, I didn't have any negative thoughts about it.
Did your views on religion or specific groups shift after 9/11?
I think there was a certain fear and mistrust that was created against Muslims after 9/11. Yes. I wouldn't necessarily say it was my personal opinion, but I felt like overall, from a society standpoint, there seemed to be a heightened mistrust.
Uh, do you think American culture or society changed in a lasting way after 9/11?
Well, 100%. I mean, I think our airport security changed dramatically after 9/11. And I think how we viewed Islam for a time being a change. And I also think people understood that we as Americans were perceived negatively by many countries and that we were a target for a lot of terrorist organizations.
Alrighty. And lastly, what were your thoughts on the U.S. going to war with Afghanistan or Iraq after the attacks?
I was not a huge fan of that. I think that we used 9/11 a little bit as an excuse to invade when I don't think that was the proper response.
After interviewing my mom and learning more about 9/11, I really started to understand how much that day changed America in ways that are still around today. My mom was actually driving when she first heard the news on the radio. And at first she said it didn't even sound real. Everyone was confused and then it hit her how serious it was, like something that big actually happened in the US. She said it felt shocking. She talked to her coworkers right away and they were all disturbed. For the first time, she said it felt like the US wasn't invincible anymore. So let's talk about how exactly 9/11 did change America. First, it changed our whole approach to national security. My mom remembered how things like airport rules got way tighter and the government started watching everything more closely. Second, there was a big shift in foreign policy with the US going to war in Afghanistan and Iraq. My mom didn't agree with those wars. She felt they were kind of a waste of money and time. And third, there was a major social and cultural change. She mentioned how certain groups, like the Muslims, were unfairly targeted after the attacks, and how fear and resentment began to grow in parts of the society. So overall, 9/11 didn't just shake the country for just a little moment. It kind of changed how we live even today and how we treat others and how we also see the world. What is your name and what was your age on 9/11?
My name is Fabio Obando, and I was 33 at the time.
What is your relationship to me?
I'm your neighbor.
Where were you and what do you remember about the events of 9/11?
I was at work, and I remember a big commotion.
How and when did you first hear about the terrorist attacks?
I was working, and then I heard everyone talking about it in the news, so that's what I learned.
What were your initial reactions or feelings when you realized what was happening?
Shocking, scare, kind of like afraid for the nation.
Were you surprised that something like this could happen to the US?
No, I didn't think it was going to happen to the U.S.
Who did you think of first, or who did you talk to first about it that day?
Called my family, talked to a bunch of friends. Yeah.
How did 9/11 change your feelings about safety in the US or national security?
Made me feel unsafe and kind of scared for the future.
How did your perspective change on political leaders, or how the government handled it?
I think they handle it well in the short term. The long term, not very much.
Did your views on religion or specific groups shift after 9/11?
Not about the religion, but the specific, very narrow group of fanatics.
What were your thoughts on the US going to war in Iraq after the attacks?
Initially supporting it. Later on, I learned it was not based on true facts.
Do you think American culture or society changed in the lasting way after 9/11?
It did change, yes. Many rules changed, especially traveling rules.
What is the most significant way 9/11 has impacted your life?
Just realize that no country is completely safe.
Alrighty, thank you. My second interview was with my neighbor Fabio Obando. He said he was at work when everything started going crazy and people were talking. There was a lot of confusion and no one really understood what was really happening at first. Then he and his coworkers gathered around a TV and they saw the footage. And that's when it really hit. He immediately felt a wave of fear and the nerves started to settle in. It was hard for him to believe something like that could happen to the US. It made him realize no country is ever really safe. And after work, he went straight to his family and friends to try and talk it all out and make sense of it all. Fabio said that 9/11 made him lose some trust in how safe America felt. He felt like security had been completely shaken. And at the time, he actually supported the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq because he was so angry and he felt this wave of patriotism. He wanted to see justice and revenge. But over time, he changed his view and saw it was all a waste of time, money, and the innocent lives that were lost in war. He also noted that while some people were unfairly targeted, like Muslims, most of the targeting was anger aimed more at terrorists, groups like Al-Qaeda, etc. Fabio believes that American culture changed a lot after that, mostly for the better. Things like stronger airport security, better FBI tracking, and surveillance became more common, and he felt like the country was even more alert. He said the most significant way 9/11 affected him was that it opened his eyes to the fact that the world is unpredictable and dangerous. He also said how it made him appreciate the strength and resilience of the country. In a weird way, it kind of brought out more patriotism in him because these attacks were so devastating and shocking. It made everyone unify kind of together, and that's why he originally supported the wars. When at the end he realized, it was kind of just a wave of patriotism because it united the country. in a time when the country was at its lowest. After hearing from both my mom and my neighbor Fabio, it's clear that 9/11 wasn't just a moment in history, it was a turning point that completely changed the United States. It left people very scared and uncertain or even shocked that something so tragic could happen there. So, to answer the question how 9/11 changed America, first it led to massive changes in national security. Things like airport screenings, surveillance, and the creation of the Department of Homeland Security. Second, it changed how foreign policy would be like. It was leading to the war on terror and long-lasting military involvement in Afghanistan and Iraq. And the third, it changed American society and culture, creating more patriotism, but also fear, division, and unfair treatment of certain groups. Even though everyone I talked to had different views, they all agreed that 9/11 made America more alert. It made America more serious about its safety and more aware of how vulnerable the country can be. It shaped a whole new era of American life. Two great sources I ended up using for learning more about this topic were the 9/11 Memorial and Museum Timeline at 911memorial.org and an article from the Library of Congress about how the attacks impacted national security and culture.